What's up everyone, Matty here. In today's video we're going to check out a new plugin from Oeksound called Bloom. Now Oeksound calls this an adaptive tone shaper. It does remind me a bit of what Floss does by Sound Theory, but it definitely sounds different. So it might be the same sort of theory, but a completely different algorithm. At any rate, in today's video I'll show you how to use Bloom, we'll listen to some examples, and even compare it to Floss to see how they sound different. Let's go. Here is Bloom, a beautiful looking purple. If you've used Oeksound plugins before, you know they make really great looking GUIs that not only look good, but are really intuitive and easy to use. It does have a little tooltip at the bottom, so everywhere you go, it will show you what it does if you forget, like I do sometimes. But if you've used any of Oeksound's plugins before, you'll notice this big knob, and that's kind of something they always seem to do, is put a knob, and that is your amount knob. And as you see, I have something looping here, and it's adaptively changing the music. And if I turn it down, it's completely gone. And as we turn it up, you see it starts doing its thing. The more you turn it up, the more it does its thing, till you get to this squash part, which really kind of turns this into a color box, if you will. And we'll get into that in a moment. And you see the threshold starts changing here. You actually start seeing the threshold of compression. But let's pull that back down. Now, to your right is this EQ section. And this, to me, is a lot of what makes Bloom unique compared to something like Sound Theory's Floss, where it just adaptively changes the music. And that's, you know, some broad stroke things you can change, but that's it. Bloom takes it a bit further, where you can turn on Bloom, and a lot of times, honestly, when I've tried this out, it just sounds good from jump. It like clears things out, it does what it says on the tin, makes things a little more clear, brings out things that need to be brought out, tucks back resonance that you don't necessarily want in the music. So it really does a good job of just putting this thing on. But you can dive a bit deeper and change the EQ. So now, for instance, instead of just having what is given here, we can go in and say, hey, I want a little bit more bass. Boost the bass, change the frequency, and you can see the color changes there for what we're actually boosting. And say you want to bring down the mid, you can bring down the mid, and you see the pinks starting to reduce there, and even change the frequency. What's even cooler is if you're here, you see it kind of does a crosshairs, you can change the frequency and boost all with one controller. Which is just, you know, that's something that's really good with, like I said, Oeksound. They just make things so easy to use. So 4 bands of EQ, basically low mids, high mids, and highs. And then if you use a little headphone, you can actually solo the band to really hear what you're actually doing. Moving down here, you have attack and release. So this works just like a compressor. You know, adjust the attack, adjust your release. Here we have some bands. So you notice like this is, and we'll listen to this in a second, this is on a banjo guitar being looped. You probably don't need a whole lot of 63 hertz on a banjo. So you can bring these filters, and that just shuts down what it's doing in the low end. Same with the high end, you can switch it here. So now it's just focusing on maybe these negative resonances that you don't want right here in the 1K area, and it's not affecting anything in your high end and your low end, which is nice to be able to switch up. Also, you can hit this switch and it does it opposite. So say you don't want it to change anything in your mid-range, but you do want to boost the high and lows, you can do that as well. And then down here, these two are actual filters. So, you know, when you're turning these, just to be clear, it doesn't change the tone. It's just changing what it's actually processing. This is an actual, filter, and you can filter the highs and the lows as well if you need to. Then here at the bottom, you have your quality, normal, high, and low latency. High just gives you more adaptive things happening at a faster rate. If that's definitely not the technical way to say it, but that's what it's doing. Normal is normal, and low latency is if you're recording or something, it will happen like a 64th of the time or something like that. Read the manual for the exact numbers on that, but that's basically what it's doing. Then we move over to here. So you have this squash calibration. Now, once you get to this squash setting, you'll see this threshold going. To set this to work in the most optimal way, you hit set and it resets it so that it is working in the way that Oeksound intended it to work. And then you can set the wet trim to match the wet signal and the dry signal. Lastly, you have a mix knob, which is really helpful once we get to the squash section, and then finally output and bypass. Okay, so now that we've gone over all the controls, let's take...
Hey, mon cowboy, bye bye mon rodeo. Ça c'est dur de tomber si bas quand t'as été si haut.
So you can hear it's doing what you would hope it would do. It's taking out some of that mud in the low end, maybe just a bit too much. It feels a little over compressed. So that's where you can pull your amount back. And let's check it out like that.
Bye bye, mon cowboy. Bye bye, mon rodéo. Ça c'est dur de tomber si bas quand t'as été si haut. Bye bye, mon cowboy. Bye bye, mon rodéo. Ça c'est dur de tomber si bas.
So that sounds quite a bit better. It's not so compressed. We pulled the attack back, which makes it not clamp down quite as fast, and pulled the amount back. Now it's cleaning up some of the stuff we don't want, but not completely taking all the dynamics and energy out of the vocal. And that's one thing to be careful with these Spectral, Shaper, Adapter, Designer type plugins, is it can really just destroy any energy and emotion and soul in a vocal or any instrument. So you have to, use it with a bit of caution. Let's check out some of the presets they have and just see what it does to the vocal. We'll start with rock vocal. Why not?
Bye bye, mon cowboy. Bye bye, mon rodéo. Ça c'est dur de tomber si bas quand t'as été si haut. Bye bye, mon cowboy.
That sounds pretty impressive, huh? Let's try the vocal group. So this sounds like you would put on a complete vocal group, I'm assuming. Also, since we're in the squash mode, once we hit play, let's hit the squash cow and the wet trim as well, just to level it out.
Bye bye, mon cowboy. Bye bye, mon rodéo. Ça c'est dur de tomber si bas quand t'as été si haut. Bye bye, mon cowboy. Bye bye, mon rodéo. Ça c'est dur de tomber si bas.
So once again, that sounds good. Like, that's the one thing I've found with this plugin is it never really sounds bad. And sometimes that concerns me because you start throwing stuff like this on everything and then you just like maybe realize you've just completely killed the dynamics of the whole mix. So as I use this more, I will want to be careful with, how much I'm putting it on everything, but it does sound good on just about everything. Let's move on to drums. All right, so it's just a basic drum beat. It's actually not even mixed. It's just the stems. We're going to play it, and we'll try some different things on here as well. So that's cool. Using that squash, we pulled the release back. That helped for sure. And using that squash, but then mixing it in, like we talked about earlier, can definitely give you that parallel drum sound that, sounds great to just give your drums a bit more energy. Let's just run through a couple of these presets. Let's try the drum bus since we're on the bus and see what that sounds like. So not bad, doing the little smiley face thing. It is in squash territory, so let's set the calibration on that and see what that sounds like. Interesting, it almost sounds a little less like it's doing a little bit less than when we did before. But as you can tell, this plugin has many uses on many different instruments, and will probably make them sound good. Okay, so last thing we'll do really quick is just throw this on a bass and compare it to Floss. I don't think it's really a fair comparison. They're doing slightly different things. What I am doing here is just putting Bloom on as it is, and then using Floss with just the tame at 30%. That got it somewhat in the ballpark of the same thing, but not really. They definitely are different beasts. but I thought it'd be cool just so you guys can hear it. You will hear a click when I switch these on and off. It's the best I can do. First will be Bloom, and then we'll hit Goldfoss. So if you guys look right here, blue means it's on. So there you have it. They do sound different. It seems they're kind of doing the same thing by pulling some of the low end down and boosting a bit of the highs, but they sound quite a bit different when they do it. So different uses for different things. I think Goldfoss is still great for this, like a broad strokes thing, where blue might be your new choice for, you know, detailed stuff and being able to really dial in the sound. All right, guys, that is Bloom by Oeksound. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Oeksound has had 2 smashes on their first 2 plugins. Do you think Bloom is a 3rd smash for 3 home runs in a row? Let me know what you guys think. If you need your songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also find my courses and presets there too. Talk to you soon.